Omni Creations is proud to present Ring Ring Hello.
All right. Hello, everyone. We have Miss Emma in the house. We have Miss Leslie in the house here to discuss the wonderful wonders of bone art. So how are you?
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Could you start off with telling us a little bit about how you started getting into the arts, where you grew up, what your childhood was like?
Yeah, of course. So I'm from Quebec City, which is in the province of Quebec, Canada. Um, my childhood was mostly with my mom up until my teenage years, and we're three siblings, and I'm the eldest. And later into the teenage years, we were joined by a stepdad who is still in our life that we call now and celebrate at Father's Day. So we are now a family of five. And throughout the early years, I would say we've always lived in Quebec. So for listeners who can pick up on a small accent, my first language is French. That's the language most of us talk here in Quebec, Canada. And then my mom was actually a student. So my mom is also an artist, a different one though. She's a musician. She's a classical pianist. And she was doing her master's in interpretation, and she had the opportunity when it was the end of her master's to do her last year abroad, and she chose to go to UMass in Massachusetts. And when that was the case, we were the single mom unit and three siblings, and we went with her and we lived there. And at that time, due to school systems, we had not had any English classes yet. So English classes would start in fourth grade for us. And for me, I was moving there and gonna do my fourth grade over there. So she taught us as much as we could during the summer before leaving. But that's where I got kind of like a more American English accent. I picked it up from living in Massachusetts with my family when my mom was finishing her final year in UMass when I was younger. So that's I would say resumes my childhood. We did mostly living in the city, and then when my stepdad came and my parents were ready to settle up and find a home, they kind of wanted to have that more farmer life, having their own source of food and meat. So have like their own like little animal. We had some that were like pets. I remember my brother had like a donkey. We had like what do you call the small horses?
Like the little miniature pony?
Yeah, pony. Yeah, that's what you call them.
Yeah.
We had them, and like the chickens, and like also the very, very small chickens that give you very small eggs, and bunnies and everything. So then we moved from the city to the farm adventure, and we're still my parents are still in that house actually. So it's been I think more than 20 years now that they're there. So that's kind of the childhood myself had. And I moved to Montreal, the big city, when it was time for me to go to university.
That is so
cool. Yeah, it is.
So are you still in Canada now, or are you in the States?
I am in Canada, so I also actually went back to the States I now have a child of my own. He is 12. It took me a while there. I was like,
What's my
12.
daughter? Yeah, my daughter. Oh,
Oh,
that's a fun
sweet.
age.
I was about
Yeah.
to say, how is she? She a little spiky in the morning too.
Oh, I call her spicy all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Becca and I
Yeah.
were actually just talking about that this morning. How about she can be a sasshole sometimes? Oh, spicy. I call her
She
spicy
can be
pants.
spicy.
Oh,
People
She
underestimate
can be
those
little.
12-year-olds.
Yeah, like
yeah.
she's sweet, but she can definitely be a little spicy, a little
Mhm.
sasshole. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some phone calls from school asking if the spice was as spicy at home as at school, like checking on the spice level, you know? I was
Yeah,
like,
mine. She's definitely extra spicy at school, so that's another. She makes good
extra
grades, but
spicy.
It's the other kids that are their
she makes
problem.
good grades. Yeah, but she don't take any crap though. So
Yeah, mine is a little dominant as
no.
well, so I need to teach him how like to function in society. And I would say that's something we might address later, but I don't know if all of your pronouns are she, if you all identify as women, but I feel we have like a little extra weight on our shoulders as having to raise many people. And I feel like maybe mine is a little bigger because I have to raise many men, and I feel like men are not always the best, and I really want to make sure that he turns out good. So I would like him
Absolutely.
to go down on the spiciness.
Yeah, I wish she would. I
Yeah.
think hers is just gonna feel up more until she gets older, and then it'll go down.
Yeah,
I was
eventually.
spicy. I mean, I used to be spicy in high school, so
I was as well. Very spicy.
I'm very chill now. Like
Yeah.
usually, for the most part.
If we keep going there, I went to high school. I went to private high school. I went to regular public school in the primary levels. We used to move around a lot, so I did a lot of different primary schools. And when it came to high school, my parents put me in private school, and I had a spiciness level, I would say, that was really high. Like very high self-esteem spiciness thing. And I actually got expelled from my first high school and had to switch mid-year, and it was a very how do you say, like, learning experience, you know, like how when like you like
You go
swallow a little bit of that ego. Yeah, and you're like
your realization.
Yeah.
Do you think being in the private school was harder than a public?
I think that if maybe I had been in a public setting, I would not have been asked to leave. I think being in a private situation gave them like the right to whatever rules they had, which was like X amount of warning, X amount of detentions, whatever, and then you don't fit into our like institution anymore. So I think that made it maybe the way it was. But to be honest, when I look back on it as an adult, I'm actually grateful it happened, because I was not being a good person when I was younger. You know, when I say I was spicy, I was not just like spicy, like funky Cardi B attitude, like how nice is it that she's her own woman. I was not nice to teachers, and I was not nice to other students. It was not nice. So
just in general,
I'm glad someone clapped back at me, and I had to look at myself for a minute, and I had to be like, is that the human that I want to be? That's interesting, because I was very versed into literature, and it got me thinking. I had never thought about me, who I wanted to be, really. I was just living me and my anger and myself, you know? But then you don't realize how much of an effect you have on other people.
And how
so it just like
and how it can affect you
as well. Yeah, of course.
That's amazing. So when did you, so you were in high school, you had, when that happened?
Yeah. And then here, the way it works, our system is a little different. We have one last year of high school, and we go to a school between doing our university and our high school we call Cégep, and that I went and studied arts and literature. So I loved doing that. It was only arts and literature, history of cinema, lots and lots of poetry and reading. Yeah, so that was me. Like there was philosophy a lot as well as like painting, and well, those are because I took those classes as well. And then when it came to choosing um an actual like university, I would say path, then I kind of chose to do a bachelor's in arts but specialized in public relations. And the why I did that is that I had grown up with my mom, who was a pianist, and I had grown up with my stepdad's mom, who was a painter, an oil painter, professional, and my own grandmother was also a professional painter. Both of them had had the classic painting teaching. When you go here, we call it conservatory. So you need to submit like your portfolio, and like you're chosen and selected to be part of like the painters, like the province, to learn how to be a painter and everything. And they were like in exhibits, they sold paintings and everything. So really like the official thing, you know? And I knew how being an artist was kind of a hustle, right? Like sometimes people will romanticize being an artist.
Oh yeah.
But it really means living with a little bit of money and a lot of months not so much money at all. So I thought that I would maybe like to live with a little bit more money. So I went and studied public relations. And right after I studied public relations, I studied public relations. I mean, the studies were good, but I realized it was really made for the corporate world, right? And I realized really early that I did not want to really participate in the, I would say, like system the way it is right now, like creating more than what society actually needs and then pushing the products towards people because that's what's profitable. And I kind of did not want to get into that. So I was very attracted to maybe go and work for an NGO. And so after this part of when I'd done my bachelor's, I went and I worked abroad a little bit. So I worked in I worked in West Africa. And I really loved the pace of living over there. I loved everyone I worked with. I loved honestly, most of the people I met, I loved. And it was the first time I lived in a country, in a place where I would say two religions. I was in Burkina Faso for the longest period, and it was mostly a Muslim country. Well, it is mostly a Muslim country, and there's still lots of Catholics that live there, like even if it's mostly Muslim. And the way that everyone is so friendly about everyone's religion is something I had not heard of or seen before. And when it's Christmas, every Muslims are at Catholics' friends' houses, and when it's out El Eid, then everyone is all over at the Muslims' houses. And then when it's Ramadan, everyone who's Catholic will not eat in front of their like Muslim co-workers or other, just out of respect. And it's a very, I would say, like, it's a very people are very like not wealthy, but wealthy in terms of I would say respect and happiness. And it's a weird contrast as well, given the fact that the government is not like elected like really properly. Like there's all sorts of contrasts and all sorts of things that are not going right, including the mining industry over there. And that is something that got me concerned when I went, and kind of why I came back to Canada and then jumped into my master's, where I studied in sustainability. So I did a master's in sustainability and wanted to study more precisely kind of the corporate social responsibility that companies had. You know how they will build a corporate social responsibility policy when they start mining somewhere, and then I wanted to see what was in for the locals and was it really something that was interesting. Because I had seen many programs in Burkina Faso where the government would pay for scholarships, for training, for things like that. But in the end, it was just, that was their corporate social responsibility. But in the end, it was just training their employees. That's what HR here would do. So to me, it was a little concerning, like very little safety and regulations, and on the social aspect, very young people working mines. So I came back and I started studying this. But at the same time, in our province, we started having a very big social question, and it was, are we going to exploit our gas that's underneath, or shale gas? So should we start fracking or should we not? And we opened a provincial kind of discussion about it. And I decided to join research and redo a documentary that had been done in Pennsylvania. It was a very like shocking documentary that had been done early end of 1990s, early 2000s, about fracking, where people would set their water, their tap on fire, and show that because of fracking, gas would like be leaking. And then you could see the impact of fracking on their community through church, because the frack, how it works over there is that they would go and ask a farmer, right, can we put some a chimney on your land? And then if they do put a chimney on your land, you get a very substantial financial reward. But if it's on your land, then they don't need your neighbor's land, because fracking goes down and then it will turn to the right or to the left. And the way laws are written is that, anyway, the underground, they have access to it. So they don't need your land to the right, your land to the left, and then they'll go to other neighbors further. So that would make neighbors around mad, because some of them were against fracking and some of them were mad that they didn't get, for instance, a reward between $8,000 to $80,000 to $180,000 on their land. So that's a very generous amount of money that some of them were not getting. And then they would, on Sunday, all go to the same church, and the pastor would praise and say that God had sent them the gas that was underneath their land, and that everyone should be very grateful about it. And it created a very big, like, I would say, crack between division between their community. So I went and I studied with Cornell University, and I talked to some health specialists about the health effect of fracking. I spoke with the fracking company. I spoke with the people that had those fracking chimneys on their lands. they've been there for, I think, 10 to 12 years now, so it had been a while. And then I spoke with the neighbors who had not. The church was not really willing to speak with me, but I had 2 DVDs. It was a good time of DVDs, where the pastor had made videos about fracking and how it was the Lord's work. And then I had interviews with people who were against fracking. And to me, young Emma still, it was crazy because these people were on the FBI watch list. Because if you were against fracking in the US, then you were against energy independence. Because fracking is gas, and then eventually, if all of the US can get on with that gas, then you would not need petrol from, let's say, Saudi Arabia or other Middle Eastern countries. So being against fracking then makes you an enemy of the state. So I have met some very singular people who had weird things happen to them, but because they were being watched all the time. So yeah, I had a really it was a fun experience. My master's was really fun. So that's what I studied.
That is so.
But through all of that,
an interesting
I
story.
studied. Yeah. And then after that, I went and I still did not want to work for. Through all of that, I studied classical painting and classical arts when I could. And when it was time to go and work, I had job offers from mining industries because they knew what I had studied, and I had job offers from consulting groups and things like that. But still, yet again, I did kind of not want to participate in what was going on. So I decided how to best work for a community and maybe have a positive impact in a sustainable way. Sustainability being 3 very important pillar: environment, social, and economics. And I decided that maybe working for municipalities would be something that would be interesting, because it's the first level of government where I could work and create bylaws regarding sustainability and do actual work in that way. And that's what I did for many years. Whilst I was doing my art, I would say, I don't even know how many years I worked. It's recent that now I'm just I'm doing full-time art. But I did, throughout these years that I really loved working municipal, I've had some of my projects that were the most wonderful. We created monarch butterfly gardens. We created ways to secure rain water when it comes. But we've also worked throughout different waves. We also did the usual when it comes to sustainability, so electric cars and so on and so forth, LED buildings. But I've also passed a lot of bylaws regarding pesticides, regarding tree planting, tree removal, things like that. But also when it came to economics, I worked with lawyers on very specific waste management contracts and the way that they were given, and integrating that third pickup, just the compost collect in the municipalities, so that all of that is picked up. So a lot of economics as well, because if we keep using a lot of our budget towards the same things every year, but we don't look at, is there a way to make it more sustainable? Could we use different products or materials and go on call for tenders with more specific products and maybe whole new products? And so that's those are the things that I worked on, and those are the things that I really loved working on when I was working municipals. So that is what I would say, different life, Emma, real life, when you go to a party and someone asks, what do you do in real life though? So that was what my life was kind of and what I did until recently that I'm really, really full-time artist, and that's like a different like branch of me.
That is so amazing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
was all of that the municipal work that you did? Was that in Canada or was that in the States?
It was in Canada.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. And
Yeah.
you got to go, so did you go to South Africa for school or was that relative to specifically the fracking?
No, so I worked in West Africa. It was after my bachelor's degree, and I worked specifically in public relations.
Okay.
So when I worked there, it was really, I was working with the government actually, and especially with the Minister of Youth. And we were working on kind of rebranding the government and that branch of the government and coming up with new programs for the youth. So like budget-wise and creating like the new website and what kind of program and so on and so forth. So that was before I went into my master's.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is wild. I love that so much. That is, we are big education buffs here. My mom was a professor, and Leslie just finished her bachelor's degree in business.
Okay.
I have a degree in psychology, but that's like my other life too. It's like we don't go back to that. I want to focus on I'm like, no, it's okay. But chef's kiss. That's all I can say. You have done so much.
Thank you. Leslie, what do you want to do with your degree?
What did you say? I'm so sorry.
I asked
Yeah,
Leslie
sorry.
what she wanted to do with her degree.
Oh, well, right now I love working with Becca, but I am in the works of opening a coffee shop /
love
bookstore. So yeah,
Isn't that
It's
the
taking work.
dream?
yes, 'cause, I love coffee and I love books, and it's just perfect.
Oh, I love
So.
that. I love that for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we plan to not just sell books but trade them. So like if someone wants to just come in and trade
Yep.
for they can just do that. That way it's not really like a library, but it'll still be free. And if they decide they want to buy it, they can come back and just buy it. So
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah. That way, like, they still have access to books.
And they're gonna do homemade
Yeah.
goodies.
Yes, yes, we
Ooh.
are. Yeah, we're a friend of ours. We're actually working on some recipes for like Earl Grey tea cookies, lavender cookies. Trying out some gluten-free breads, just to have a variety. I have my own banana bread recipe we're gonna include, and so it's gonna be really fun. Eventually,
Yes.
sell our own jams.
Oh, that's really nice. I love me a banana bread.
Same. It is definitely a favorite.
Sustainability is a big part of business management and entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
the consistency, again, with that I've seen amongst the many wonderful women that have already been a part of this podcast, of unexpectedly, because I had no idea you had a background in PR, which like change like and is so it's just like it makes so much sense. Like it just things start to click, and then you see it, and it's like getting to watch. Like when I look at you and I look like you, I'm like, these are the same people. Two brilliant women just expressing their wonderful lives, and I'm just here to bask in the ambiance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, she mentioned sustainability. Like, I had a sustainability class in my business classes, and I was like, I know exactly everything she's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
When I did my master's in sustainability, actually, the master's in sustainability did not exist yet. Or in like corporate social responsibility. So you had to do the master's in business, and then you could specialize since you were doing a master's and writing your thing. And then a couple years later, they started existing in like the business schools, like sustainability or corporate social responsibility. You can straight ahead go in there. And I find that's absolutely wonderful, because a lot of people that were in my program had chosen also to like look into these things. And every business now is kind of mandatory, but you look at them. I love to go in a business and click on their corporate social responsibility and just look at these pictures of those little kids having fun. And I'm like, there is nothing in there, honey. There is nothing in there.
When were you in school? What years?
It's
a little off topic.
So my master's I did in 2011, 2012.
Okay.
I think. I had my son. He was born in 2012, and I had him when I was still in my master's. So around these times.
Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, schools have definitely changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
Colleges.
Right.
Yeah. Because thinking about the other courses I could have taken, I honestly don't remember seeing where I could branch off to sustainability.
Maybe not from the bachelor's, but maybe because here in Canada now you can take what they call like it's kind of like a diploma you can do only after a bachelor's. So it's a 1 year like specialty, and they have those, and then you can also do like a whole master's on it. You can just come here and do it.
Oh.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
Let's go to Montreal.
When I told you that for a second, I forgot that you were in Canada, and I was like, wait.
It's in English. You can do French also.
That's right.
No, I can't do the
We're
French.
going, Leslie. She invited us. We're going.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I have family from Canada, so they actually went from Canada to New York and spoke French. I know no French though.
Oh,
but they
knew
your
French. Ancestry route?
Huh?
Do you mean in your ancestry route, or do you mean recently?
Yes. Ancestry.
Okay. So do you have like a French last name, and well, not you or someone in your family? Because
it was Genrin. Genrin is how they would pronounce it.
Can you spell it for me?
Hold on. Let me make sure I even spell it right.
Okay.
I don't think I know it was Gen.
Is there a D? Because if it's Gendron, we do have those. A lot of them here.
Yes, there's a D. Yes.
Okay, Gendron, maybe, yeah.
I met
in the US a lot of people that had French last name, and I would pronounce it like I pronounce it here, right? And they were like, "Excuse me," and I was like, "Oh no, pronounce it from back in the day. I'm so sorry."
Yeah, that's okay. Pronounce it one more time. How you doing?
Gendron.
The GND, because that's how they did it. And it was
RON, right?
N. Yep.
Yeah, Gendron. Yeah.
Yep. We didn't pronounce it that way, but yes, that was the last name. And then on my grandfather's side was Whalen. They came from Ireland. So Whalen, they would go Whalen, or however they pronounced it. Yeah. So.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we infiltrated everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, because when you said Canada and French, and I'm like, I had family from there.
Well, that's good that you know. I find like a lot of when I recently went and lived in Delaware, and it was close to the UD campus, and because they received some French from France exchange students, if they saw my last name, they were like, "Oh, from France," and I was like, "No, from Canada." And some people were surprised that we had French-speaking people in Canada. I was like, "No, we do. We've always had."
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I know there's tons of area that speaks mainly French, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, our whole, like, when you look at the map, the province there, it's French. We have a very small area on the island of Montreal, in the west of the island of Montreal, where we have native English speakers. And that is due to the fact that, well, our history is more complicated than 2 or 3 sentences, but the French came to Quebec first, right? Not the English. So they came, they established, and they took kind of what was the province back then. And then eventually the English came. There was a war, and at some point the English won. So, but the French stayed. So the English who were there were the upper higher class and military and whatnot. So they were, let's say, more important people. And it kept throughout the history when it came to labor, even in the 50s, 60s. So on the island of Montreal, we had a lot of industries and labor, and we would say that, well, we wouldn't say, the facts were that French Canadians were the workers, and then the bosses and the owners were Anglophones. So they would reside in the West Island because at that time, the West Island was still very green, lots of very big plots of lands, and they had very nice places to stay. And then the rest of the part of the island was a little more dense, and that's where the workers would stay. So the West Island, after everything, they had kids that had kids. So now, like, there is a part of the island that is Anglophone, and through our laws, our provincial laws. So for us, education is provincial. Every children in the province has to go to school in French. And the reason why the government has put that in place is to preserve our language. Mostly because when you look at where we're situated, we're surrounded by English speakers, and I guess we imagine that if we kept it free for everyone to send their children anywhere, a lot of us would send them to English school and be like, that will help them professionally. So it's mandatory to send them to French school all the way until they reach that. I was talking about cégep earlier. So after high school, then you can pick and choose where you want to go. If at that point you want to switch to English, then you can. Except for if you're a native to the English community. If both of your parents were English, all the way to your grandparents, if your grandparents were Anglophones as well, you can go to school in English. And those schools are located in the West Island of Montreal. So we have an English school system over there. And so a lot of young people are going to school in English over there in the West Island. So we have kind of both languages in the province, but majority of us speak French, and then small part in the West Island, well, small part, they're a big community, they speak English.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I would say our history is very
I'm thinking,
rich.
like, I had taken a French class in high school, and now I'm like, I really wish I would have stuck with it.
You know what?
It was-
I've lived in the States, and I've always wondered why you don't take Spanish.
Yeah, we did have a lot of
honestly-
Spanish classes, but I wasn't interested in that. I was actually interested in the French class, but it was extremely difficult. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was
Yes.
very hard for me to pick it up. I remember a few things, but
It's
It
very
didn't-
similar to Spanish. We have genders for absolutely everything. Don't ask me why. Everything is gendered. So,
I remember that a
like,
little
this
bit.
pair
Yeah,
of scissors is a lady. So,
it's a little. Okay.
so like, everything is a gender. It's just like, this pencil here is a man. So, I don't know. It's just how it works.
Interesting.
I wish
No, wait, those scissors are men. Those scissors are men. I made a mistake. This glue is a lady. Here's a lady.
it's a lady.
Oh yeah. This glue is a lady. Sorry. Gender scissors. Everyone speaking French listening to me is like, what?
You lied.
She is lying. But I think in the US, given the immigration, and I really love in the US how like the diversity is high. It's much higher than the one that we have here. We've had, for us, it's been waves of immigration, and we see them mostly in Montreal. So we've had waves of, I would say, Vietnamese immigrants, and then we've had waves of Haitian immigrants. And I think that in the US, it's not just waves, it's like a lot of people that came for different reasons at different like moments, and you have such a high rate of Spanish speaking people, and wouldn't it be wonderful if you could all communicate like together? For us, as a third language, Spanish. So I can speak Spanish over there, but everyone surrounding me could not. And I was looking at them, how come I'm the one speaking Spanish here?
I did learn a while ago that picking up a new language for me is pretty difficult. For
Yes.
some reason, I could not get the hang of it. I try. I
the
truly do.
introduction of language at a young age for the development in children is
Yes.
the main thing.
Yeah.
That's something I learned with psychology. I worked as a behavioral therapist, so I worked with children
Okay.
from like as young as 2 years old to as old as 18. And I would agree tenfold that it would be so great if more public schools in America had a language option, like as a class, because you really do lose a lot of brain capacity as you get older with the language. People who were, even if you weren't taught another language, if someone in your household comparatively spoke another language other than whatever the native language is, those children have a higher adaptability to learning other languages. And it's just due to that exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned Spanish in school all the way to 17. But I think if I was to pick up a new language now, it would be a whole different story. A whole different story. I think, as you say, our brains are wired differently as adults. But I also think that some people have the brain made to learn languages, just as some people are like artsy, and some people are very good at math. Like some people are like language buffs. It just comes to them.
I am not one. Absolutely not.
Leslie's like not in the house.
Turn on and tune in with the talk show where two friends set the reminder that no matter your background, you're not alone in a post-COVID world. Join us for discussions about parenthood, approaching your 40s, building a business, and more. Will you be calling?